there, Kory here, the art archaeologist, and welcome to the very first excavation. This is the jelly plate excavation, and this is dig number 1, marbling on your jelly plate. So we're going to do this sheet today from start to finish, and we're going to do a few more things and talk a little bit. I wanted to show you, I did this little sample. I did not film this, I just wanted to, I wish I would have filmed it, but I wanted to just reacquaint myself with marbling because it's been a long time and I've never marbled on the jelly plate before. So this is really fun and exciting. So here's my sample one. And then I did a lot of this in the video, but it was getting so long that I went ahead and did not do the veining on this one, and I'm really not all that impressed with this one. So you're not going to see this whole thing being done, but you will see this being done here. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into it. All right, here we are ready to get into dig number 1, marbling on your jelly plate. So a long time ago, I took a bunch of professional faux finishing classes, and I did a lot of jobs back in the day, and I wish I could have continued on with that longer, but it is so brutal on your body. So anyway, I took a marbling class to faux finish marbling, and I did quite a few marbling jobs when I was doing that. And I've got to say that, you know, in my opinion, of course, God is the greatest artist of us all. And when I'm not mesmerized by flowers and butterfly wings and things like that, I am just mesmerized by stone and marble. And I could practice stone and marble for a lifetime, painting it and studying it, and I would die still not knowing everything about this topic. So it's a very near and dear topic to me, and I went ahead and pulled a few pictures off the internet, a few sample pics about the stuff that I had learned from my class and from my practicing. Now, and I want to pass those tricks on to you today. So here is a really nice example of veining, and you've got a lot of veins that are buried deep in the rock, so they've got layers of stone over them. And then you've got these more prominent veins on top. And a few things that you'll notice is veining generally does not spider web. Okay, so you don't have, very rarely do you have a bunch of veins coming off of one from the same point. It's just not a natural way that veins work, so you want to guard against doing that. And then veins of the same layer do not cross over one another. Like you'll see here that this crosses over this, okay? There's a big X right there. Those are two separate layers of veining. That's very important to make your marbling more believable. And then down here, you'll notice that sometimes it'll look like they're crossing over, like right here in this area. But if you look closely, let me get you in here real close. If you look closely right here at this intersection, you'll notice that at a glance it looks like it's crossing over, but this line and this line are actually two separate points off of this line. So that's just something to make your veining more believable. This is just one of those topics that takes a lot of attention. And another trick about marbling is, and I only have the satin version of this, they have a gloss, high gloss version of this Duraclear, and I am not a fan of glossy finishes. But when it comes to marble, I am. And when you get done painting your marbling, if you top coat it with the highest gloss finish that you have, and you can use a spray or a brush on, however you decide what's best or based on what you have, what happens is it really brings the depth of all of those layers together. we're going to do a few different samples. Now I pulled this, it's got the Dreams Time thing on it, but I like the veining on this. This to me looks like a painting, the way the veins look, but it's a very beautiful painting, and I could be wrong, it could be real. And look at this, there is so much marbling out there and stonework that really comes in stripes of color, stripes of all of these different layers of minerals. So, you know, some of it just, you wouldn't believe it's natural, but it is. Now, these pictures here, I snapped these in Epcot in Florida when I was visiting my father. We went to Epcot, and this is the Italy area in Epcot. And see how this artist, this is all painted marble here, but they did this darker layer of marbling, and then they smushed it down with some translucent paint, and then they were free to go ahead and cross right over it with this new white layer. So it's really helpful if you're into marbling like I am. It's very helpful to go and get some samples. Okay, and there are better ways to do marbling than on your jelly plate, but I wanted to see if it was possible, and I painted a little sample for us, and I'm going to show it to you in a minute, and I like how it came out. It's a little bit different doing it on your jelly plate, but it's still really fun. Now, I took these last two samples to show you some examples of what I think is really good vein work. I love how they cross over and make these circles, because this happens naturally all the time. And this little triangle, they won't cross over and through, but they'll definitely crack into and make little areas within the veining like that. And I think that's just beautiful. I think whoever painted these just did a beautiful job, and they kept it very simple, okay? And you can easily overwork veining, and you can easily underwork veining. It's one of those finishes that is beyond tricky, but so fun. It's such a, it really is digging up treasures, you know? So we're on this marbling dig to dig up some treasures. So here's the sample I created. And something I like to do is vary the color in, let me back you up. I like to vary the color for the background and then make the veins follow the variation of color. It just adds a little bit more believability to your marbled painting. And this is not top coated yet. I need to top coat this. I want to start off by doing a background. So I'm working on Canson mixed media, or Canson, yeah, mixed media paper. And these are 7x10 sheets. So let's talk tools for a minute here. Of course, you're going to need your brayer and your paper, your brayer paper, your printer paper to run your brayer on. And your paints, I've got an array of paints here. Neutral gray, the burnt umber, the Titan Buff. I like this espresso color here by Deco Art. And I like this Folk Art Vintage White because I'm running out of my Titan Buff. So just grab the colors that you like, and that will be perfectly good. And then I've got some brushes here. I've got a softening brush, which is really invaluable to doing work like this. This one in particular is a Symphony. And it's a faux finishing tool specifically, and I have quite a number of softening brushes from my faux finishing days. So these are a really great tool to have around. If you don't have one, just find the softest bristled brush that you have, and you can use it to get you by until you can get one. Now here's just an array of chip brushes. I get these at Walmart in the paint area, and these are some of my all-time favorite paint brushes. When you first get them, they shed like crazy, and that's really annoying. But when you just unwrap it, just pull on that, and you can pull all those loose bristles out, And it's no fun to get them in finishes like this because it really can mess up your finish. So take the time to do that. You can even put some tape on your hand and touch it to the tape. But the great thing about these brushes is the more you use them, I know a lot of people that just use it once and throw it out. These are the best brushes if you keep them. The older they get, the better they get, okay? Just like us women. That's the key here. I always have some water handy. Now, I always used to do stone finishes. I did quite a number of marbled pillars back in the day. And one of the greatest tools you can have on hand, it does not work so fabulous with the Gelli plate that I've found yet, but I haven't tried it a whole bunch, so I could totally be wrong about that. So let yourself experiment and dig up these treasures. The bottom side of your sea sponge is going to give you a more subtle look, okay? So you want to use the bottom side to get that subtlety. Now the top side is going to give you that stone spatter look on it, okay? So you get a very different look from the two sides of your sponge. Very important to know. I just keep a squirt bottle of water handy for whatever comes up. All right, so the first thing we want to do is I found it best to have your background completely covered in paint. The white showing through interferes with the finish. It just doesn't help the finished result on this marbling. So what we want to do here is, oh, my paints are getting old. What we want to do is dig out the chunks of our old paint first. Anyway, you want kind of a thicker coat, and I'm just going to go ahead and mix in some of this espresso in with this vintage white here. I'm making this bottom layer quite juicy, okay, and the reason you want that is because I just said it, you want to get rid of that darn paper, okay? So I'm taking very little of this paint off, and that's the worry of some of the browns mixed with the creams, is you can end up getting a pink sheen on your paper, so you want to guard against that. But there's a lot of pink stone in the world too, so if you like pink, that's a good way to get some subtle pink colors, is to blend browns and creams together. Okay. I'm always flirting with paper cuts the way I jelly print. I laugh about it now because I'm not suffering from my own behavior. Hopefully I won't have to. I've just got a bunch of printer papers set aside here, and they're coming out really cool. I like them, so I'm trying to fill them in as I go. Okay, now I have this variation of color in here, which is great for marbling. You want this. You don't necessarily need it on your undercoat, but when you get higher up on your other coats, it's a good thing to have. So we've got a little white, and we've got a line here. I'm not going to worry about this top part right now because that can always be cut off, but I am concerned about these parts right here. So we'll just take a little smidge of this vintage white again. Okay. And roll it out. Got way too much on my plate. Get rid of some of that, and then I'm just going to come in here and just kind of spot it on my page. I'll get rid of that. Now it's looking a little contrived. So, not the best idea. But it's okay. You want that, you really do want that, I can use that to my advantage. You really want the white of the paper gone. This is better than having the white of the paper showing. Okay? And you can always take a paper towel, which I need to have handy anyways. You can run it along there and kind of smooth some of that, blend some of that out. This is your first layer of color, but it is going to show through. So blending those harsh lines out is a great idea. Okay. So you just want that base. Now we've got some more white in this paper, so I'm going to just tone this whole thing down and use some of my beloved Titan Buff. And I'm just going to knock the whole thing back with a thin coat of the Titan Buff. It's actually a pretty thick coat. But that's okay. You know, you just want full coverage on that, on your background to start. At least I found that to be best, the way I've been doing it. So my idea is to show you how I do it, and then for you to venture out and experiment and, you know, add to what I've shown you. And of course, develop even more powerful ways of doing these things. Oh yeah, okay, that knocked it back beautifully and gave us a really gorgeous background to work with. And all the white is covered. We've got a little bit of paint chunks on here. Those are so chunky, I'm going to pull them. But this is a really nice background to start with. You just want that full coverage, okay? So now you want to let this kind of dry and set up a little bit. So I've got this one which has a lot of potential and a lot of challenges. So we're going to tackle this one for sure. And we're going to tackle this one. This one came out. This is probably the best background I made for this segment. And, you know, I need some supplies and I need a little bit of practice. So let's go ahead and tackle this. Now, this is really bizarre up here. So what I'm doing first is I'm taking my round, and you want to have the tiniest bit of water on your brush. I'm thinking about going back to my old setup because I'm very concerned that it's not light enough in here. I'm looking at my camera monitor and it looks darker than I want it to be in here, which amazes me because I've got tons of lights on this table here, but I may just have to make another change. So this is going to give me some bigger lines, and I want to load that paint into that brush, and then I just twist it and spin it out of the puddle. That's how I do mine, and I try to keep the paint out of the ferrule. And then you just want to start moving your hand across the page before you bring your brush down, and I'm just going to use those lines to accent my veining. And you want to come up and down. We're going to take advantage of these marks here and we're just going to use them. So then I'm going to come in here. I'm going to offload a little bit more. Let's go ahead and come from over here. And we'll follow that line up. We're going to kind of make that this part disappear because I'm really not liking it at all. But you want to be careful. Now this, I'm going to get wide veins out of this brush, so I'm going to come in here and kind of follow along some of these lines that are in here. But we want to come in with a smaller brush and get narrower veining, so you don't want to do all your veining all at once with the big brush. And then I'm going to take my softener while those are a little wet. And you can blend that out. I think I waited too long. I got a little of it right there. And then we can always come in with a smaller brush too. It's going to come together, you'll see. So let's throw a couple more big veins in. And I found with this kind of marbling that less veining is more. And what I really want to do is I want to come up with a segment on marbling much more subtle finishes. And do a lot more veining, but for this here, we're just getting some lines in there. And see how it comes together more when you're following the contours of the colors that you already have in there. That's why it's good to have a variation of color. And I really do want to practice this more with my Gelli plate, because I think I can do much better. I always have to, you know, pick a starting point. You pick your starting point and you go for it, and then you come in and you learn from your starting point, and then you come in and perfect it. So I had 2 cups of coffee so far this morning, and coffee always helps with your veining. So that's enough big veins for me. Now I'm going to come in with a script liner, and I'm actually going to come in with some black for the veining. We're going to do some smaller veins. And I'm going to go ahead and wet that again, just because it gives your brush a little bit more flow to water down that. At least have your brush watered down a little. I really don't want my paint watered down, because I want thick, strong, well, I don't want thick, but I want strong lines for these veins. So now I'm just going to come in and I'm going to come off of here. Just kind of let that fade out. You could take the bigger areas and kind of blur it out. I wanted to say too that when I get all the veining done on this, I kind of want to push everything back and make it a little bit blurry. I'm going to see how it comes out first. I could change my mind on that. Just going to come in here with a little bit here and a little bit there. I might push it all back, and I wanted to share with you, you know, I know we all use, a lot of people use golden matte medium or Liquitex matte medium and all those things. I used Floetrol when I was a faux finisher, and what this does is it's a medium to add to your paint to lengthen your work time. It opens up your work time so that stuff doesn't dry on you too fast, which this would probably be good to add to this black veining paint. But the price of this is so much better than that other stuff, and honestly I cannot tell a difference between this and the other matte mediums I've used. This is designed for latex paint, but I have used this for years with acrylic paint, and it provides the binders you need to add translucent layers to your finishes. So I wanted to point that out too. You don't always have to have the top name brand. It's nice to have that stuff, but when I find something that works really well for me, I really do tend to stick with it. So I'm going to come in here and kind of want to vary your pressure and kind of really come away from it with a thin line. And you can always come back and reattach it to another vein if that's what you're doing. You can always come back and kind of smooth that over. These big lines are not looking so great to me right now, but that's okay. This is, with finishes like this, when you're doing layered finishes, a lot of the times, and I may have already said it, a lot of the times they just look terrible until you get that magic layer laid down. So don't let yourself worry too much if it's not looking so good. It may just require another layer or two. Come in here and kind of follow this. This script liner I'm finding is not my favorite veining tool. I'm trying to get a thinner line is why I'm using it. And it works okay for that, but not great. I'm going to do a couple more. Now, I really don't like to cross my veins over each other in the same layer. Once I put another thin translucent layer over top of this, then it's really perfect timing to do that. So I'm just going to come in here and maybe throw one there. Blur that out a little. You know, and just play. Because I always, when I start getting uptight, and it's very easy to get uptight with a finish like this, then I quit having fun. So it's really a good idea to keep in mind that, you know, you're playing and you're learning and you're experimenting and you're getting a feel for what works and you're getting a feel for what doesn't. It's been a very long time for me that I have done marbling, so I'm having to kind of re-educate myself on it. So there's very little. I want to add a tiny smidge more black up here somewhere just to kind of follow it through. Kind of want to end that. That's why I think I've always come back to art time and again, because I can play and I can learn and I can have a light-hearted approach to art. I understand the feeling of messing a piece of artwork up. I have messed up many pieces of artwork over the years, and you just come to realize that, you know what, it's part of the deal. And it's perfectly okay. And when you let yourself mess up, then you have, it just opens up a whole new world of freedom for you that you didn't necessarily have before. So let's come in here and break some of this up. Because remember, we had that really weird shape in there that just didn't lend itself well to stone. So let's go ahead and break some of that up here. I'm even gonna come in and follow that. It really does add a nice touch to have these different layers of color, because we're making that awful shape in there disappear now. Okay? And then let's go one more coming off of here, and we'll come up this way. I'm really going to have to take a look, because the jobs I've done have been so huge with the marbling that I never ran into issues with using such a big brush like I'm using right now. And I'm using actually a really small brush, but it's not small enough, so that's where your pen comes in. Let's go ahead and throw in a little bit with the pen. So you just kind of want to let yourself, okay, that's way too jagged, but it's okay. And then throw in, I always like to throw these in where they're like these recesses where they reattach to each other. Now you're getting that really thin line, and doesn't that help to make such a difference? We'll attach it there. So you can really go a long ways with this. This is one of those finishes where you can literally be at this for weeks. This is not even, I mean, stone is just one of those things you can really go jumping down the rabbit hole far. Which I like, but I also like to complete stuff too. I'm going to take another vein and right in there. But look at the depth that you can create just by adding some pen marks in there. It really makes such a huge difference. Throw another little, I don't know what you would call those, fissures, I'm not sure. See, now you want to be real careful that you don't cross over your veining, because that is, it just doesn't happen in nature very often. It happens all the time on different layers, like I said earlier, of course. I try not to repeat myself, and I am not so great at that. I really want to be better at that, so just keep rooting me on, and it'll get better and better. It was funny, one of the ladies commented that she was shocked to hear that I feel so socially awkward in my videos. And it was funny because to me, I perceive myself as coming across socially awkward, and for her to say, I was shocked to hear that, kind of was like, wow, okay, well, my perception of how I'm coming across is not the same as how I'm coming across. So I found that to be quite interesting. But I do feel it's just weird, because you're sitting here with the camera going and you're by yourself and you're talking away, and it takes some getting used to, and it's just one of those things that doesn't, to me, feel natural, you know. And so it's jumping out of your comfort zone once again. I really like this down here. I like that black over the white. I like that look. I think it really adds a lot to it. So yeah, it's just funny to be sitting by yourself filming, because yeah, it's like you're talking to yourself, which I do that anyway. I don't know why I feel weird about that. I always get the answer I want to. I love it. I almost like talking to myself more than I like talking to the people in my life, because I answer myself the way I want to be answered. Oh, good grief. Okay, that's looking a little much and a little contrived, but it's all right. You can add a little in there. Some parts can be more than others. So, you know, we started off with this really awful shape up here, right here. I didn't like it at all myself, and it's pretty much been abolished. So I'm going to quit there. Now, something you can do that's really cool is take a little bit of white, and I'm just going to use my script liner, and I think that this does need another layer, so we will push this back. This is going to be a long video, my goodness. I keep telling myself, I lay in bed at night and think I'm on a mission to make my videos shorter. But when I'm trying to teach something, it takes time, you know, it really takes time. So what you can do is just come into these browns here and there and just add the tiniest bit of white. I'm telling you now, add a little bit of medium to your veining paint, because I'd be having an easier time. But you really don't want to add a lot. You just want to add a little bit, because you don't want to lose the opaqueness of your veining. You want it to be pretty strong. Look at what a difference that makes to add that little bit of white. I hope you can see. I can't believe I have 5 lights in here and I'm still struggling with shadows. It's amazing to me. Okay, I may have to just go back to my old setup. You know, I set up in here because my idea is I want to film whenever I want. I don't want to have to be beholden to daylight, and I keep finding myself beholden to daylight. And you want to use cool lights because you don't want that orange tint. So I've got cool lights. I've got a couple really kind of pricey studio lights in here with the big filters over top of them, and then I've got a couple lamp clamps with light bulbs in it. Look at that white, really just makes it pop some. And to use a white pen, I'm sure, I haven't ever done that. See, I talk about 5 different things at once. To use a white little jelly pin on this would be fabulous too. But back to the lights, you know, I've got a couple clamp lamps and I've got a floor lamp with white cool light bulbs in it. So, you know what, I thought, oh, that's going to be so nice and so wonderful. And I don't know. You guys tell me what you think, because this is about bringing you a really nice experience here with the videos. So I love to hear your comments, and I love to hear your tips. You know, I know a lot about art, but I surely completely do not know it all. Of course, no one does. So it's fun to get new tips and tricks. This paint is fading as it dries, which is kind of irritating to me. So it's not the greatest. It's really important to, I think I would go over this. I'll have to hunt up my jelly pins. But I'm also going to bury this. So look, you can take those weird shapes and you can really transform them into something totally different. So, and look at what a difference that little tiny bit of pen mark, the veining, did on here. And you know I want to do a little bit more, of course. I especially like how it's looking on the white, how it really shows up in the white like that. Kind of making it look a little like broken glass. So you want to just look at your reference photos, get some reference photos before you start, and that will go a long way to help you out. And then, you know, don't cross over and don't make spider webs. Those are the two really powerful things that I have learned. You want to be careful about how your pen mark lands. So look at what depth that little bit right there adds. And then I would even take a brown Sharpie and add some smaller brown lines. See how the thick lines give the pen marks even more of a highlight? It's like the pen mark has become the star of this piece. So you just want to practice. Let's do one more real quick. And I'm just going to start off, I'm not even going to use that round because I don't want my veins that big. I'm going to have to play around with a few different brushes. The problem with the script liner is it doesn't have the ability to hold a lot of paint. I think I said that too. So I'm just going to come off here. But if you follow the lines of your, and then you can trail off. If you follow the lines of your color, you know, you want to go thicker and thinner. I'm also not getting the right kind of shake out of this script liner. So that's bothersome. And you'll just get comfortable. Use different brushes. Try different stuff. That's what I love that about, and I don't consider this failed artwork, but I've had a lot of failed artwork in my life, and I like to talk about it because I think it's important. Nothing is failed. It might not be a great piece, but the fact of the matter is that what you learn from doing something wrong is a treasure in itself, you know. Even when things don't work out the way you want them to, I always like really take an inventory about a lot of my artwork, and I say, okay, well, what did I learn from that, and what didn't work, you know. And then you end up with this vast amount of knowledge from everything you do, and I just love that. Art is such a mysterious friendship in my life because there's always more to discover, there's always more to learn and have and do and try, and it's all okay in the end. You know, you're never, the only punishment I've ever had from art is Well, I've had a lot of frustration over the years from art, but having to throw something out, which I don't generally throw anything out. What I do is I just paint over stuff, you know? So there's always an opportunity for redemption. It's not like where you totally blow up the bridge in a relationship and there's no going back ever again. It's not like that with art, you know? And I do have relationships. One of my most powerful relationships in this life is with art. That's how I like to look at it. So see how thick this line is? I'm going to have to invest, get some, I want to get some fine liner colored. I just don't have them right now. But if you really want to take your stonework and your marbling and your veining to a huge new level, get yourself some of them Sharpies and let yourself do that. Thin lining is really going to make a difference. So this is coming out okay. And you can blend a lot of that out. I'm just trying to follow a lot of these shapes here. And I'm not getting the jag like I want. You don't want lightning. You got to be careful. There's a, I don't know, a lot of marbling can look like lightning. It's just, it's all about the practice. It really is. I like the color variation in here. You really can go far. I think we'll just do these two because you guys get the idea. And then I will do a stonework excavation because it's truly and easily one of my favorite topics. Let's hit some white in here. So easily one of my favorites. And I'd like to do some different stone, and we may do a few different like things of marble. I may do a couple marble digs within, because I love the drama of the dark marble too. And just remember to get yourself a nice opaque white. And if your white is too translucent, use it anyway, and just do a couple of, go over it a couple times. The only thing I don't like about that is you run the risk of thickening your lines. I'm going to stick just on the bottom side to me of these. Like, you don't want to, I think I did it a minute ago and kind of told myself not to. You don't want to have them on this side and then that side. You want to stay consistent. There's such a magical consistency and rhythm in nature that continues to astound me all the time. And, you know, every time I leave my house, I see art in everything. And it's because I'm looking for it. And we get what we look for, you know. And I used to be a very angry young woman. And I won't go too deep into that. But I was angry all the time because I kept finding evidence of things to be angry about. Because that's where my focus was, you know. And I constantly found things to be angry about, like I just said. So I've trained myself over the years, and the more art you do, I think it comes very naturally to those of us that do art. And so you probably know exactly what I'm talking about when I say that I see art everywhere I go and everywhere I look, you know, because we're constantly thinking about what to create next and what to come up with next. And we're constantly getting inspiration from everywhere, and I just love that so much. And it's such a relief to not waste my precious time on being mad, because it's so easy to fall into it. I look at it as a trap, you know, the anger trap. there's so much to be angry about in the world, and if I look for stuff to be mad about, I'll find it everywhere. You know, there's things that are bothering me today, but I'm more concerned with putting out good art and putting my attention on my art. Okay, so that really highlighted it a little bit. Now I want to show you, and I held it up at the beginning. Let me grab it real quick and show you again. I really think that this one came out the best. Let me move this. And it was my quickie, I got to get this figured out piece. And it came out the best, in my opinion. So I didn't do any black marks in here, and I wish I would have. But you can, I hope you can see the sheen. I went over this with that satin varnish, and it really adds a lot of depth, and I hope you can see that. I hope the camera's picking up all the depth. You really get to see all the layers that are underneath when you do that top coat of sheen. And I wish I had a high gloss. You can use sprays too. I have some sprays. I try to stay away from the sprays because they're really toxic. And so I try to just stick with the less toxic the better is always my approach to any kind of art supply. So but top coating it with a sheen is just going to bring out all those layers. So I'm going to do a few. I wish I had a brown pen. I almost don't want to add black, but I'm gonna, because it'll bring, black always brings drama, always. I'm just going to do a tiny bit here and there. I like the look of the black, but when you're trying to do something a little bit more subtle, like this piece, you know, that's the thing. Some people will be all, "Ooh, I love that," and others will be all, "Ugh, I don't like that black." So this is another one of those opportunities at, you know, it becomes a matter of personal taste here again. When you highlight these little areas of color, I think it brings a lot to your piece. So you can just keep going and going and going with this. So I hope you guys are liking this and wanting to try it. I'm definitely going to do some more practicing, because I think that stonework really does deserve an excavation of its own. And I hope you're excited to hear that, because I'm really excited to say it. Makes me want to, okay, now that curve right there is not the best. But that's okay, we'll just come in and we'll change it. And we'll take the focus off of it. It's so nice to add all these, and you can add little tiny ones. You can really get detailed in your work, and it's fun. I think the black kind of adds something cool to this, but it's hard to get that trail of like you can with paint. So I think I need to really practice with some other brushes and try to get myself a really fine, thin line, because I like the small veining. The thick veining is necessary because it highlights the small veining. But in the spirit of us not being here all day long, I'm going to quit right there. And I want to mix up a little coat of, I'm going to just do some Titan Buff and a little, oh my God, I'm almost out of this. I'm going to cry. Okay, nothing's open yet, and I don't want to, I haven't done the curbside. I don't want to do that. I just want to go in. I want to touch my paint. I want to put it in my basket. I want to take it to the register, and I want to pay for it, and I want to come home, and I want to paint. That's what I want, and I can't have what I want right now. Dang it, dang it, dang it. So let me get this together. I'll be right back. Okay, so staying true to our jelly plate marbling, I'm going to use my jelly plate to do this layer here. And this is already translucent. but it's about toast. Oh. Here's your translucent gauge on the golden paints right there. You guys probably all already knew that. I didn't notice that right away. It took me a little bit of time, and I've got paint covering mine. So this is pretty translucent, but it could stand to be better. Give that a good shake. I love Floetrol. This has created, I've made a lot of money off of this product. If I could get it open. I'll be back. I was just telling my Floetrol bottle, you better open. I just talked you up a bunch. Okay, so I'm going to do like 1-to-1. I think that'll be good. And if it's too much, then we'll find out. But I have made a lot of money off of using this product, and this product has helped me create so many beautiful finishes. So if you want to do your wall, you know, I'm here to answer questions for you, and there's a lot of faux finishing videos here on YouTube, so check those out. But if you want to do a wall, then that is the product to use. You mix it with your latex paint. Okay, that's going to be a little thick, I'm afraid, still. Oh no, I gotta open it again. Luckily it worked. Okay, so, okay, now we're at 2-to-1. I'll leave it open and make sure. Now the thing to know about this Floetrol is, and I think this is probably true for a lot of mediums out there, I even want it lighter. We're gonna go maybe 3 or 4-to-1. Is that this opens up your work time. Okay, so this is going to take longer to dry. So just know that ahead of time. And, you know, whenever I did faux finishing jobs, it was, you can get away with 2 coats of paint in a day. But no more than that. And so, you know, I was constantly having to go back. It was just part of the deal, you know, having to let walls dry overnight. That's the way it worked. So that's looking pretty translucent there. I'm going to roll with this, and I hope it's not going to be too opaque. And all I'm going to do is get as much of this on my plate as I can. I didn't want to use water because you get this breakage apart here, and I was hoping I wouldn't get that with the Floetrol, but there it is. And that's okay. It might just really add. Plus, I can come in and soften out my page while it's still wet, too. Okay, so now that you've got that going, you want to come in with your brayer, and I like to get rid of the brush strokes. I do not want to see those brush marks. Oh no, my poor brayer is so mistreated. I've really got to soak it in some hot water and let it heal from all the stuff I've done to it. Okay, now I'm trying not to get lines, and I've got so many chunks in my brayer that, yeah. All right, good enough for who it's for. Here we go. That's my dad's favorite saying, good enough for who it's for. And it's really funny coming from him because he's a massive perfectionist. So it's like kind of ironic for him to say that, because then he turns around and does the most amazing stuff. I installed pool tables. He's a pool table jukebox guy. He was a firefighter. He's a retired firefighter, and oh, what a wonderful man he is. And he's, we had a family business where we installed pool tables and jukeboxes, and I would always install pool tables with him, and it was really fun. Okay, so that knocked stuff back, and it didn't knock it back too far. I'm going to take my softening brush and just kind of smooth it all out. But look at what that added to this. Now I've got this chunk of brown here. I'm going to try to get rid of that. What I can do is just throw some of that on there. softening brush is such a great thing to have around for so many things. You can really use this softening brush for a lot of stuff. So I recommend having one. And these, I am not sure of the brand. They have, here's my two. I did a job where I was having to soften so much that I wasn't able to rinse this brush in time. And when I finally washed it, it was destroyed. The paint wouldn't come off of it, so I had to whack it. And but you'll find, just look for faux finishing softening brushes. And you don't have to have, you know, we all think we have to have all this fancy stuff, and we really don't. We can get by with, I 99 out of 100 times can get by with something I have in my home, you know? So it's just a matter of going through your stuff and trying a few different things. So I think that improved the look of this greatly. And it's quite busy, and it could even use, let's just throw one more in. Okay, so that really pushed things back and made it so much nicer in my opinion. I'm just gonna set that for a quick sec. See how I got all that dendritic veining? I want that out of there. I do not want that on this finish. I love that look, but it just doesn't lend itself to this. So look at how you can transform that and really turn that into a gorgeous stone finish. Now what I'd like to do is I'm going to stop the camera and let this dry for a few minutes, and then I want to come back in and just go over my black and pull that up to the top. Okay, so this is pretty dry for the most part, and it will ruin your pens if you don't let it dry enough. So you want to guard against that. You really kind of want to walk away for longer, but I want to get this edited and up. And there is no way I'm going to be able to match this completely, but I'm going to try. But look at how quickly and easily you can pull a layer up to the top, okay? And then that just really adds more layers to your piece. So I'm probably going to need to continue on with this corner. It actually looks pretty cool, but top coating this, which I will do, and you will see, really makes a difference too. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I'm going to hurry and get this video edited and uploaded so that you don't have to wait to see it. Have a great day, and I will see you soon.